Hi, Bob. All right, so we're at the traditional 5 to 10 minute past the starting time. So let's start. Welcome to the koha-US Systems Administration and Report Special Interest Group, where we gather monthly to discuss system administration, system preferences, whatever lives in the admin module, and I don't know, SQL stuff, reports, whatever people want to talk about. As ever, we have no structure and no topics aside from 3 general points on a list here: reports, bugs, and issues. I don't know. Anybody got questions or issues they're dying to talk about?
Well, I came here because I'm fiddling with a problem, which is that matching, I can't add a matching rule, and the ones I have aren't working. On 2205, I reported as a bug, but the person who replied to it says he can't replicate it. But this is on 2 different systems. So I don't think it's only me because, yeah, I've done a lot to the first system. But the other one is just a plain ordinary everyday setup, though it's been migrated from over the years 3.12 to 2205.
When you say that you can't make a new matching rule, does it like not save or does it not work? Or
I set it up just like the way it's supposed to, and then I get a 500 error. It's there, but it's blank afterwards.
have you been able to track down the specifics of that 500 error? Like, is it showing up something in your Plack logs?
That was one thing I came to ask. So it's the Plack log. Okay.
Yeah, probably. That's usually where 500 errors spit out their details. There's a file that's the Plack error log.
Okay. Let me see if I can talk about something else for a while, and I'll see if I can get to it.
There's also a file called the intranet Plack error log.
Okay.
And in theory, all the intranet errors go in the intranet error log, but that didn't really ever happen. Yeah, I don't know. We'll vamp while Fred looks for error logs. Doing a little dance, but I'm too blurry. If anybody else had matching rule issues?
What, no one?
Just
This would be in
usual,
var
like,
log, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Been too long since I've poked at black box. My matching problems are always just the usual, like, I don't know what this index is called, the documentation lied to me, those things.
Don't see it. Oh, here we go.
The problem with the Plack logs, of course, is that there's just a like running log of everything. And so if you're not like watching the log while you trigger the error to see that this is the new error that has appeared at the end of this long text file, then it's hard to know what's up.
Okay. Well, I see something that looks significant. DBI exception, my SQL ST execute failed. You have an error in your SQL. It's wrapping. SQL syntax, check the manual. It corresponds to your MariaDB server version for the right syntax to use near offset.
Oh, so it's not even giving like a foreign key constraint failure or something. It's just a like a syntax error.
I think this is when I was trying to set up or upload some files with matching. Let me try creating one.
I hope my microphones are picking up the screaming child so you can all get a fun public library experience.
Well, if you hear dogs, it's probably from here. Okay. Mind if I share my screen so you can follow along?
Please do.
That way, if I'm doing something wrong. Okay, let's see. Record matching rules. Okay, here's 099A. Add match point, nothing there. That is the index name, right? May have the 099 indexed under in Elasticsearch under use this index. So that's what I should put there, right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay, 099 A. That's all I have to do.
Yeah.
Click save.
Okay, so then the big question is, did some new text just appear in that error log you were looking at?
Let's find out.
Yep.
I guess it's on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, so it looks like it's failing as it tries to write that rule into your database. So I would dig up the file that it's pointing at, that libc4matcher.pm, figure out exactly what database action it's trying to perform that it's erroring out on. Hopefully it's failing because of like a data inconsistency or something that you could just fix in the database and then it'll go through, rather than somehow your code base getting messed up such that it really is just running a gibberish call.
Okay, I'll give that a try. I'll stop sharing for a while.
Oh no, where'd that put Zoom? Zoom, you're so weird. There you are. You stopped sharing your screen and Zoom moved its window onto the laptop that was closed.
Oh,
Very
terribly
helpful.
sorry. All my fault.
Well, that's a fun matching rule database conundrum you have there, Fred.
Yeah. I'd say it's
I'm
not
glad
just
you have-
not just the one that I've done horrible things to, except that was the one I showed you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have a second system to go try the same thing on and see if it produces the same error or a different error, but seems like you've at least got a rabbit to chase.
Yeah. I started out with a completely fresh system and then started changing things.
Do you have other questions about this, or should we move on?
I'll move on.
Okay. Well, who else has fun issues they're dealing with, bugs they've been watching? Interesting harebrained schemes? Seems like a no.
I've actually got a question here.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my circ rules and I'm wondering how everybody, I imagine everybody's got kind of their own kind of way of organizing their circ rules. But my question is there, what's your way and what do you find the most efficient? And I'll just give you a short description of mine. What I do is I usually have a circulation rules. I'll show you my screen just to give you a quick rundown. And get the zoom thingy out of the way. I usually just create the rules. First, if I'm trying to I create the general rule for all users, and then I put in exceptions unless I need to create rules where there's an exception where I need to block a user type. So like unverified, I create a rule to block them. And then for like staff, I create a rule. Oh, sorry. I create a general rule so that they can borrow anything within a certain amount of days. And I'm wondering if anybody has like a method or an idea of how to make it a little bit more efficient instead of having like all these all separate rules. Or is this generally how everybody else does it?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to avoid that. That's yeah, unless you want to go simpler. I mean, and just say like everything, there's just fewer exceptions, because the moment you start doing exceptions for item types and you build in another patron category, you inevitably have to put in all of those, or else it won't work.
Yeah, that's what I thought originally, but I was like, you know, I throw it out there and see what people are, if they have any interesting tweaks or any different ways of doing it.
I mean, in our consortium, we have so many different libraries. We have some schools that have one rule. Everybody checks out for 3 weeks, and there's just one rule in their branch, and then other ones that look like this, where it's just lots and lots and lots of rules. So yeah, I don't know. It's a pain to manage, I'll tell you that.
I'm kind of with Bob on this one. Like, yeah, this has been my experience as well. It's a mess and it takes a lot of rules. And the more sort of like top level exceptions you have, every general exception creates the need for specific exceptions for every patron category. That's a little weird.
Okay, then I'm on the right path. I was just hoping that there was like an easier, I was sometimes I tend to overcomplicate things, and I was like, maybe I've done it here, but apparently it doesn't seem so.
No, I don't think so. And I think the only thing is you'll have people being like, if you miss something, somebody will be like, wait, why did this thing check out this weird amount? Or why did it get prevented from doing that? And then you'll get that feedback and you're like, oh, I actually missed one of those things. That's kind of the best. But once they're set, they're set. So I can't imagine you have a lot of huge changes year to year with your circ rules. At least relative to a collection of 100 libraries, at least relative to that. But
that was a sinister chuckle.
Yeah, and one of the things I do notice is that sometimes during upgrades, these rules change and randomly. And so I've started downloading those, you know, the rules, all of them, exporting them just so I can match them against the upgrades. And it was just one time it turned out that it should have been 5 and it was set to 50. And I was like, oh, I didn't do that. So
the one thing that I do with the circ rules is Lucas wrote some really nice jQuery where it can hide certain, and you've kind of got that, but it's kind of the older, it's not as snazzy as the stuff Lucas did, so I can find that and drop that in the chat. It's a little bit more color coded
Mhm.
and a little bit prettier, but that definitely it is also less prone to breaking because we have this for a while. But anytime there's an upgrade and you add a new column, it gets the way, at least if this was George's old code, jQuery code, the way it would completely break everything. So he wrote it in a way where it doesn't do that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. So, okay.
I was just looking, there must be a bug somewhere asking for those table settings controls in the circ rules table. Because that would be nice. Because I just don't think there's a single library in the world that uses every column in that great big circ rules table. I've not immediately seen it.
I was also gonna ask about the development committee. Are you guys still accepting submissions for developments, or is you're focusing on that one, just message one right now?
If you can submit something, I've been too busy to put the form together. I was going to work on that today, but if you can get something in, I would email me in addition to submitting it. But yeah, I don't think there's any hard deadline, but other than the fact that we want to get moving on a vote for this year.
There are two. I have one development that I asked a quote from Bywater, but I haven't heard back from them. I'll bug them about it. And then I just noticed there's another person that was interested in development that I submitted a bug for a little while ago, and I can submit those two and see what people think. So
Yeah, I mean, we have a meeting on, yeah, I don't think we're gonna get the vote out, so we have a meeting on Thursday. You're certainly welcome to come to that too and talk about those developments. One thing that I can say that we're just working on after the success that koha-US had, having Catalyst out of New Zealand clean up some of the poor coding that was done for a development. We were the last development that koha-US did. We are looking at doing that. Our organization is doing that because we have some more timely needs for a few developments, and they seem to be available to do work quickly, and the price wasn't too bad either. So just something to consider. And I know that Brendan has recommended PTFS Europe also. I just know Bywater's pretty backed up on development stuff.
yeah, I'm going to be traveling on Thursday, but I'll definitely try and get that submitted, and you guys can take a look at it.
Yeah, sure.
I was not successful in finding a bug to add the circulation rules table to table settings, but I do feel like it must be out there. And if it doesn't exist, I'm going to file. So we'll get there. I did find this bug that I've thrown into chat, just, I don't know, kind of more as a historical point of interest. There was a bug for a while. I mean, obviously it still exists, to revamp the circulation rules interface. It kind of never went anywhere, or rather it got to a like proof of concept and then stalled out because it was just a larger change than anyone was prepared to really dive into. It was interesting. I think my takeaway from it, having seen it, like this was when I was still at Bywater, we loaded it up on a test site with a reasonably sized library, circ rules, and it felt to me like it was trading complication for different complication. Like it's not the big table we all know and hate. It's some new interface that we could come to know and hate. It did though have a cool feature where there was a button you could click that would check through all of your rules and delete the ones that were redundant. Which is kind of fun because it's real easy to make unnecessary circ rules. Bob has put his long jQuery for the circ table into the chat. I'm going to find where it starts and copy it somewhere else.
So one of the things by that is that almost near the top, you can either hide or unhide. Just, you know, you might want to hide different things than we hide. So you just put that, you just write that the exact name of what the circ rule appears into what you want to hide, and it will do so. So it's very easy to adjust.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see construction hide by default, and then you're just listing columns by name.
Yep.
Neat. Does anybody else have circ rule questions while we're talking about circ rules?
I had just one happy moment.
Oh yeah,
Andrew,
we'll
the
take happy
bug
moments.
that you and I worked on 100 million years ago apparently is cleared for 2211.
Heyo. That
Um,
was that's
25426. I was checking the status of it and saw that it's cleared for 2211. So I'm very
Oh,
excited
yeah.
to see that,
that's
which creates a new rule about checking in, setting your cert control rules to use the check-in branch, which is great because we just opened another location this week that is not going to keep any audio-visual materials there. So now they're transferring them by hand. But when this comes around in 2211, it'll be able to say, no materials of audio-visual item types live in here. So I'm super excited this is coming.
That'll be nice. Yeah, this bug is all about floating, really, for libraries that mix which items float and which don't, and which branches things float at and which don't. This lets you tell a specific branch when things get checked in here, follow these rules. Previously, it was always taking the item's home library rules, I believe, which doesn't really work. We don't set floating behavior based on where the item came from. But we want to know, like, where is it right now? Yeah, that'll be a nice change. I've lost my Zoom controls again. Come back, Zoom. Has anyone filed any other interesting bugs or been watching anything of concern or excitement?
I put one in the chat I found this week by accident. I was batch modifying a whole bunch of patrons and realizing that when you add a circ note, it wipes out all the previous circ notes.
Oh yeah, sure, because it's an overwrite, not like an append of your circ note.
Yeah, that caused a problem because we had a patron who had text and text and text, and it got wiped out by my update. So, oops. Oh well. So yeah, that's the bug for that. If anybody wants to comment on it.
It would be nice if there was just like a little checkbox in the patron modification tool to say, like, yeah, append this to the existing note. And patron modifications don't do regex substitutions, right? Items and bibs do, and like you can make that do an append rather than a replace. But
Andrew, there's no way on the item regex to do a replace of like a, is there? Regex?
Yeah, in the batch item and bib modification, they're both able now to do a regex replace instead of just an overwrite. So like the example I always came back to for bibs was if you've got a URL in the 856 and you need to change just like one part at the beginning from ebsco.com to ebsco2.com, Now you can do that. You can change just that one little bit and leave the rest as it is.
How would one do that?
With regex,
Because I think I've got the thing to add something. I was able to add a prefix. Our data wizard that you probably know, little Joe, retired. So now I have to like figure stuff out, which is not as. I liked it better when somebody else got to do that, and I didn't know what was going on.
let's see if I can remember how anything works. So for a bib, we would try. Maybe this isn't in 2205 yet, actually, as I think about it. It definitely is with items. So let's find an item. Don't find my intentionally bad bib for making a mess on. So in items, if you click that little regex button, you get a substitution. Find this regex pattern and replace it with this. I'm gonna have to really think about how this works though.
Yeah, don't worry about it too much. But you think there's more coming with a future update?
Yeah.
I put a link in the chat. I always go back to that one when I'm trying to do like something regexy in the batch item modification, because they've got examples of how to prepend, how to replace, that sort of thing.
Jason says my.
Yeah, that's what I did is what you put in the chat was adding something, but not replacing that prefix.
Yeah, I think they've got one down there where it's like replacing Carol with Barbara. I'm not I think that I've done that. Like,
Okay.
because I do it for call number modifications, like adding a space between DVD and a title where they've forgotten to do that sort of thing. So it'll just replace like the first thing that you search for in the first box.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so there's examples of appending or prepending into the note with regex. And really you're just with the $, you're matching to the end of the string and saying whatever, then replace the end of the string with this text. And the caret's the other way around.
So I see. Okay, so if you're not doing the caret just is the appending. So if you just write in the words, that will do the replacement.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then this example down here is swapping out the word Carol with the word Barbara. So if this is a check-in note. If the check-in note said take the item to Barbara, or rather, so I'm doing that backwards. If it said take the item to Carol, this would take the word Carol and replace it with Barbara. Now that is, if your note had been, this is a book about caroling, please give it to Barbara. It would change the word Carol. It wouldn't know what to just do the name and
Right.
those letters.
No, I mean, I think that the next big problem with this would be the chance that when I'm doing call number fixes that they're consistent to begin with is going to be the other challenge. So there's going to be a lot of sorting and doing it one by one to make that work. But that at least that's helpful though. And
I was trying to find a couple of other bugs here that are relevant. Failing at it. So let me poke a little more here. Okay, I know there are 2 more bugs about regex substitutions out there that I will dig up later. Emily put something in chat. I like this regex cheat sheet too if I'm trying to do something a little more complicated, even if I don't know what I'm looking for. It gives me something to Google. Yeah, that I would say find any regex cheat sheets you can and hold on to them for dear life because it's a deep and mysterious hole. I use the website regex 101 a lot, which is just an easy place to plop in some text and test your regex against it. Here. So your text here, and then whatever you put there tests against your text here so you could see, am I finding things correctly? I'll only find that at the start of the, oh, it didn't find it. I don't know. That's a bad example. But yeah, helpful site. Regex seems like a fun segue into SQL. Anybody doing any cool reporting stuff? Anybody struggling with any SQL queries?
I need help. I figured somebody here has got to know how to do this. So because we anonymize our checkouts, and I won't talk about the pseudonymization. We haven't got to that part yet. I'm having a hard time. I'm trying to calculate the time, the amount of minutes an item has been checked out using the old issues. But when I tie it to the statistics table to get the borrower number, I keep getting borrower number 8, which is our default. So I'm wondering if anyone has anything that has, or a workaround to figure out how to pull the number, the borrower number from the statistics table and get the time and issue, the check in and check out from the old issues table. I wasn't sure if anyone had a report like that. I checked the wiki, but I couldn't find anything specific.
So are you
What?
starting with like the barcode or the item number of an item and you're looking for the time it was checked out, or what information are you starting with?
The item type. So it's one specific item type that they want to see all the items checked out that day, what the duration was of the checkout, the borrower number, so they can tell if it was one borrower checking out 50 items or 50 borrowers checking out one item.
Okay.
Oh.
And this is for our maker lab. So they want to say, oh, our drill got used 3 times today. Our average, checkout was 10 minutes. Or, we see the drills being checked out once a day and the average checkout is, 3 hours. So that's kind of where what they're hoping to get. And I was running into all kinds of roadblocks. They keep coming up with borrower number 8. So I can get the statistics table or I can get the old issues table, but I can't seem to make them mesh.
Yeah, because they're like designed not to. Pseudonymization does the thing you want. If you turned that on and it started saving data, then you could use it to. I think without because pseudonymization maintains the idea of your individual borrower to be able to say how many of these checkouts were one person, how many were different people. Whereas old issues, yeah, is just making everybody the anonymous borrower.
So for pseudonymization, it would be like your patron 123, I'm patron 124,
Yeah,
Bob's patron 125. And then that's just a random number. That's not actually our patron number. Okay.
right. The only other idea that's jumping to mind absent that is you could join the old issues to the statistics table on the combination of item number and date, making the big assumption that these items don't get checked out more than once a day. Heck, I suppose you could even join them on date time string down to the minute. And that would
Okay.
mostly work aside from the places where it was checked out at the very, very end of a minute and the two tables don't quite match timestamps because they don't always.
Okay, I'll give it a go. Thanks for the thought.
It feels kind of like telling you to grab two random electrical wires and tape them together, but it might work. Can't think of any other way you would know from the old issues table whether or not two checkouts were the same person. You're looking at checkouts within the range that's still in your action logs.
I had thought about using action logs, but that's a path. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If you think of anything, you know where to find me.
Now I'm just sort of standing here quiet in case anyone else is thinking of a question. Well, then I'm going to start quiet, slowly, gradually moving us toward wrapping up, giving everybody a chance to realize that they did have a question that they totally forgot about. Be that about SQL or system preferences or administration setup, any old goofy stuff. So that seems like a no.
Well, I have a continuation. Sorry, I had
Ooh.
to unmute. Okay, I found out where the error was. I put it in the chat. Use modern : Perl.
Oh,
That
that's what
seems
that
to
meant.
be that seems
I
to be
thought you said that.
standard. Yeah, I asked Professor Google and I did find it at GitHub in the koha files.
Oh, sure, that makes sense, actually. So every file in there starts with like an assertion of this is the programming language you're using. So really it's erroring out right out the gate on this process,
Okay.
which
Does modern Perl do database access? I wouldn't expect that to happen until later in the program, which makes me wonder if the error is like giving a wrong line number.
that could be, or at least not like that makes the error not very meaningful, which is unfortunate.
Oh. Okay,
think
maybe I
this-
need to put it in the koha list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume that things that are commented out are not counted as lines because it's about 15 lines of comment and then a blank line and then use modern.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't make any more sense for it to be giving you an error message about a commented outline. So I would guess you're right.
I feel like the last line of your error message is maybe more meaningful because the last line actually looked like a database query.
Okay.
Hinted out what it was trying to at least do.
Yeah.
Well,
Might be worth scanning through that file to see where it makes a database call. See if that gives any insight into what exactly it's trying to do, where it chunks out on you. I don't think anything changed in the structure of the matching rules table. That'd be worth double checking, just like grab the schema for the previous koha version and this one. Because that could be breaking that attempt to write it into the database.
yeah, maybe I should set up a completely new blank koha instance and see.
Yeah.
I've made an awful lot of Koha instances, so I'm getting better at it.
Okay, well, on that note, then I'm gonna call it for the month. We'll see you all back here in April. And we'll do more Koha stuff. All right, happy librarying.
Thank you all.
Happy Pi Day.
Take care.
Take care.